Are you 58, thinking about retirement and wondering, hey, do I have enough to retire? And if I do, when should I be taking Social Security? Can I do the travel plans that I hope to do in retirement? Well, today we're gonna walk through a case study of a real life example of a recent conversation I had with a couple named Chris and Karen. And I wanted to share kind of what I talked through with them. And maybe this will help you in some way as well. So if I haven't met you yet, my name is Jacob Duke. I'm a certified financial planner, and my goal for this channel is to help you succeed in retirement. So let's get started by actually looking at their current situation, their age, their incomes, where they have money saved, and what they expect to need in retirement from a spending standpoint. So right here we can see that both of them are age 58 currently. And for just the time being, I've got Chris passing away at age 85. I'm going to change that in just a little bit to kind of show you an example of something regarding Social Security and how they might want to change their elections there. So I'm going to leave that as it is currently. Now, Karen, she's also age 58, but I've got her living to age 90 because most of the time, statistically, the woman lives longer than the man in a relationship. So we're going to keep that the same for now. Let's take a look at their overall asset makeup and just kind of where their assets are. So here we can see that Chris has $573,000 in his 401k. That is all tax deferred, so that will be taxed whenever he pulls that money out in the future. Karen's TSP has $185,000 in it. Again, that is all tax deferred. They also have a joint bank account with around $105,000, and their primary home is worth $450,000, but it's important to know that that home is paid off, so they do not owe a mortgage or any debt on that, which is a really big part of this. Now, let's take a look at some of their goals and what they're trying to accomplish. Well, they see that their retirement age is at 58. So they're trying to retire right now here at the beginning of October. So that's kind of their time frame, is they want to retire immediately. They also, in retirement, how much money would they need to spend in terms of expenses? Well, they expect that their monthly expenses will be around $4,500 per month. So just over $50,000 per year. But remember, that is because they don't have a mortgage or any other car payments or any other debt that's out there that could be increasing their monthly fixed expenses. Also, I wanted to make sure that we include their healthcare costs in here because they are 58 and they will have to go get insurance in the private market, whether that's through the Affordable Care Act and some of the provisions that are available there depending on their income or whatever source of health insurance they're going to need. This is going to be obviously before they get to Medicare, and then at Medicare age, they would have their Medicare Part A and B premiums, and then also either Medicare Advantage or Medigap policy that would come into place at that point as well. So also they mentioned that one of their favorite things to do is to go and travel and do new things and see new places. So I wanted to make sure that we put an annual vacation budget in there on top of their $4,500 that they would need per month. So they estimate around $7,000 is kind of what they hope to spend on vacation each year. But we're going to see just in a minute how they might have to tweak that a little bit depending on their success rates and kind of their scenario moving forward. Also, I just want to kind of point out, hey, Chris's salary right now up until this point is $90,000 per year. Karen has been earning $68,000. Those would go away, obviously, as soon as they decide to retire. And then also their Social Security benefits. Chris's benefit at 67 will be $2,300 per month. Karen's will be at 67, it'll be $2,200 per month. And right now we've got those elected to be taken at full retirement age, which would be 67. So they're not going to take their Social Security early, at least at this point. We're going to walk through a scenario in a second where that might change just a little bit. So that's where we're at. And through all of this, we're assuming that their overall net worth is going to be growing at a decent rate because right now I've got their portfolios for these different accounts at around 80% stocks and then 20% bonds. So that's kind of what we're looking at there in terms of what their investment allocation would be. So they are fairly aggressively invested, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It might actually be what they need in this scenario. We could change that here in a minute if we need to. So let's go ahead and take a look at what their overall retirement kind of picture looks like right now based on these current assumptions. So we see that they have a 60% overall probability of success. And if you watched any videos of mine in the past, I don't think of that 60% as just like you will succeed 60% of the time and then 40% of the time you're absolutely going to fail. Just know that that 40% of the time that's left over, you just might have to make tweaks or changes or just kind of adapt and go in different directions at that 40% as opposed to you're gonna run out of money 40% of the time if you retire based on these assumptions. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. But whenever we look at this, right now we can see that we can pull all of these different levers to see, hey, how do we increase, number one, that percentage of success, but then also, is there a way to increase this dollar amount, saying how much we could die with or leave onto our family if that's important to us in the future. So we're gonna play around just a little bit and see what this does. So right now, all this is the same as our current assumptions. Now, what if we said that instead of $4,500 per month expenses that they need to spend in retirement, what if we move that down to $4,000? Just really curious what that does to our percentage here. Okay, so it increased it by 20%, just that $500 per month, pulling out of about an $800,000 portfolio, it makes a big difference. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you, is that depending on how much money you actually have to take out of your accounts in terms of a distribution rate, that's gonna affect your retirement success by a lot. So I just wanna show you that really quickly. I'm gonna change this back so we can kind of also pull some different levers here and see kind of how they affect their different outcomes here. So what if they said, hey, Jacob, we actually don't need to retire right now at 58. We wanna see if we can, but it wouldn't kill us if we decided to work another couple of years and ultimately say we'll retire at age 60. So what if we change that to age 60 for both of them? And we leave their spending amounts the same. And remember, they're still taking Social Security at 67 both. We're still invested about around 80% stocks. So let's see what change this does here. So there you go. It increased their overall probability of success by 11%. So that's another change that we could make, is what if we said, hey, we're going to delay another 2 years, but then also on top of that, what if we don't need $4,500 a month? What if we need $4,000 a month, like I showed you just a second ago? And now we're making some progress in how we do this. Now, what if they said, hey, Jacob, we just cannot cut our spending anywhere below $4,500 a month? So I'm gonna change this back. Brings us back down to 71%, but that's still not the end of the world. Let's see if we change our Social Security election strategy. What if we change that to, instead of full retirement age at 67, what if we change that to as early as possible? I'm curious if this is gonna be a positive or a negative change, and we can dig into why this might be here in a second. Okay, so it actually brought them backwards by taking it early. Now, why would that be the case? Well, number one, if they take it at 62, which is what this is now showing, that means that they're going to decrease their benefits by around 30% as opposed to getting their full benefit at 67. So yes, they begin to get that benefit sooner, but over time, they're gonna end up actually getting a less amount of money over the lifespan of their Social Security withdrawal because they're taking it so much earlier and decreasing the amount of their benefits. Now, one point I did wanna make here is that Chris mentioned that his family has different health histories in terms of passing away early and different cancers and things like that. And so he's worried about that for himself from a genetic standpoint and just kind of seeing, hey, will I actually live longer than my parents and other folks ahead of me? So that is a concern for him, which ultimately leads him to say, what if I took my Social Security benefits at 62 rather than 67 and get what I can while I can? So let's go ahead and model this a little bit. Now let's just move this back to the current strategy for our Social Security elections, but I wanna go and make a change here on his actual lifespan. Instead of actually saying he's gonna live to 85, I wanna change that to, let's say he is 58 now, let's say he lives to age 70. I'm curious how this might change things for him moving forward. Okay, so no major changes here, but let's leave this like that. Okay, so 58%, and this is with him passing away early. So number one, we see that because he's still electing to take his benefits at 67, it means he's only gonna get 3 years worth of benefits, as opposed to if he takes it at 62, then he would actually get at least something over those 8-ish years that he could be doing that. Now, whenever we look at Social Security, this is our current strategy and kind of what it looks like to say, what if we did it based on the optimal strategy? So the optimal strategy most of the time is gonna be taking it at age 68, 69, or 70. But let's just say that we're gonna leave them taking all of their benefits at full retirement age, and their current strategy is also that. So the blue line represents the current strategy, the gray line represents full retirement age. Those coincide with each other because right now those two things are the same. Now, what if we said that instead of doing it this way, we change this to where Chris's Social Security benefits are no longer being started at 67. We're gonna start those at 62. So this right here is his PIA, his primary insurance amount, that $2,300. That obviously his benefit would be $2,300 at 67. If we take it at 62, it will be a little bit less than that, probably closer to $1,800. So I've got that changed. Let's go back and look at how this might be a good or a bad thing from a Social Security standpoint. Okay, so current strategy shows that with Chris passing away at age 70 now instead of 85, so he is assuming that he's going to pass away sooner because of his family's health history. Now we've said, what if he takes his benefit at 62? Okay, so that's where his would start. And then his wife, Karen, would continue to delay hers until 67. So they've got 3 years right here where they're both taking their benefits together, which is why you have this jump. All right. And then also on top of that, before then, he is going to make some money there. So because of doing that and then also passing away at age 70, we can see that he's going to get $40,000 more over the rest of his life out of Social Security than he would if he was going to delay that until 67 as opposed to taking it now at 62. So that's one thing to consider is depending on your family's health history, that could change when you decide to take your Social Security. So I wanted to point that out, but now let's go back to our analysis to see, did this actually help us out over the long run? And it actually did, because before we jumped over to that screen and changed that, we were at 58%. So if we do that, we've got Chris taking his at 62, Karen taking her Social Security at 67. We've delayed their retirement by a couple of years because of their current allocation in terms of how much money they have saved. Now if we say, what if we do this, move that down, I'm curious what that changes. Again, it bumps us up to 82%. Again, that 20% you won't succeed kind of percentage is not a you will fail 20% of the time. That's just saying 20% of the time you might have to make a change. I wanted to see if we can leave this the same real quick. And I wanted to adjust really quickly their goal for their annual vacation amount. So what if we move that down from 7,000 to 5,000? I'm curious if that makes a material change at all. Let's just see really quick. Okay, so it made a little bit of change, but what if, instead of doing it all the way until age 70, let's say we do this, because right now I've got this every year from now at age 58 until age 70. What if we change this to 65 in terms of they're going to use $5,000 a month for vacation? And let's assume that Chris's health gets worse between 65 and 70, not allowing them to go travel. So now we're changing that. Let's see, this was at 67%. Let's see what changed here. It moves up to 70. So by decreasing the amount of money they need to travel each year and go on vacation, but then also decreasing the number of years that they need to travel, we can see that they're going to continue to improve their plan. Now, one other factor in all of this is right now, their retirement spending, I've got that as inflation adjusted, meaning every year it's adjusting by 2.5% up. So if we look at the cash flows here, we can see that their spending amount every single year is increasing. So their expenses start at 66 and they're just increasing every single year throughout their retirement until Chris passes away at age 70, and then Karen would be on her own. So they decrease slightly, but they are still increasing due to inflation. Now, what I found with kind of talking with and working with so many retirees is that typically spending is not increasing every single year based on inflation. In fact, early on in retirement is going to be probably your highest spending years because you're traveling, going on vacations, visiting family, doing all the things you've dreamed of doing in retirement. But as you get older and kind of slow down a little bit, that's whenever you would call your slow-go years. So early on you have your go-go years, and then kind of 70s through 80s, those are going to be what are called your slow-go years, whenever you're maybe just kind of slowing down a little bit, not traveling as much, maybe some health concerns are starting to pop up a little bit. And then in the later years of your life, your spending will typically increase a little bit because of health costs or long-term care facilities or anything that might pop up health related. So this has kind of been coined the phrase of the retirement smile. So you spend a lot more early on in retirement, and then as you go, you spend a little bit less, and then on the back end, you start spending a little bit more because of those healthcare costs. So I'm going to change our retirement spending calculation from inflation adjusted to the retirement spending smile, and I want to see how this actually makes a big difference, because I think it will. There we go. So it gets all the way up to 86% probability of success, and that's based on a more realistic spending kind of schedule throughout a retirement based on what most people do. So whenever I see, hey, it's 86%, we're going to end with a lot more money than we started with, or about the same amount of money that we started with, We've increased our overall probability of success from 60% all the way up to 86%, and that's simply by delaying retirement by 2 years. We didn't change our spending at all. We changed Chris's Social Security election from age 67 down to 62, but we left Karen's the same, and we changed his because of those health concerns that he mentioned. And then also on top of that, we gave them a more realistic expectation of what they could be spending and how they would be spending in retirement. That gives us a lot better shot of making this a successful retirement. And again, that 14% that's left over, that's not saying you're gonna fail 14% of the time. That's just saying that 14% of the time, based on market conditions and how things are going in terms of returns inside of your accounts, we might have to make some adjustments. We have to maybe pull back a little bit how much we're spending. We may not be able to go on that $5,000 vacation that year. That's a good thing though. You should have some flexibility in your plan, and being 86% rather than 100% is definitely not a cause for not being able to retire. So thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope you found it helpful, and if you have, go ahead and leave a comment down below letting me know that you did, and whether or not you would like to see more videos like this case study that are just real examples of real people that have these exact questions. So thank you so much. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and I will see you next time.